I hate taking videos down. I've not done it, but I had to do it recently. We made a video, Josh Jones and I did, on this channel. And then we made another video and put it on his channel, and that video is still published. A little controversial, but anytime we talk about broadheads, people get passionate, myself included. But the video that I had on my channel about TAC vanes, I took down because there was some inaccurate information. And most importantly, my friend, Levi Morgan, reached out to me and was like, dude, what's up with this video? We did the video with a critical lens because anytime a manufacturer makes a test video and they're testing their own products against their competitors, it's honestly low-hanging fruit. And I thought it would be good and it would get views, and I thought it would be educational, most importantly, which is always my number one goal. It was perceived well, it was perceived not well by the guys from TAC, and they were upset, and I apologize to them for making them upset. The archery community united, not divided. So what we decided to do, Levi and I, was like, let's get Rick Forrest on. He's the engineer of Whisker Broadheads. Let's get MFJJ on, get Levi and myself, and let's just hash it out. So this is what you're about to see. I think it's a great video. I think Zoom sucks. It's a little laggy at sorts, so the lips don't always match, but the audio is clean. Watch, learn. I'm gonna talk to Levi, Rick, and Josh about the video, ask them specific questions about the TAC vanes, the LRP, and behind the scenes, did they actually weigh every arrow? How were all the tests? Why'd they leave certain things out? And what was their conclusions? Come along, here we go. We're way behind you guys. All right, we gotta hustle because Levi's picking up kids, so I guess we're gonna skip the formalities and get right to it if you guys are ready.
Sure.
Okay, guys, we are doing a video today. We are, it's probably how we should have done it in the beginning, but just so everyone knows, Levi Morgan and Dan Staton do hate each other. We are feuding, we're sworn enemies. And I say that just joking, but no, Levi is a good buddy of mine, and he reached out after we published this video where Josh and I were armchair quarterbacking, watching their production on the, I believe it's on the TAC side, and we were watching through a critical lens. Like, we were doing what everyone does to us on the internet. And honestly, we were pretty good at it, apparently too good. We ruffled some feathers, but what we wanted to do today was make this educational for everybody and go behind the scenes of TAC vanes specifically, which I don't know anything about and I want to know a lot about. We also have Rick on, who is, I believe, the guy, the engineer. Rick, can you bench press more than Levi? I say yes.
Well, we're not going to get into I'm bigger than the next guy at all, but just to clarify things, I am not the engineer for TAC vanes. I am the engineer for Whisker Broadheads.
Okay, fair enough. My money's still on you. All right, well, so I guess we're going to start off with Josh Jones, owner of Spokane Valley Archery and customer of TAC. He does buy your vanes and sells them. He and I made a mistake on our video, and we're going to address the elephant in the room. Josh, you stated their vanes weigh 3 grains per vane. You are wrong.
Let me clarify what that was, and I was absolutely wrong. I inverted the numbers in my head. It was the difference between the heavy and the light, not the actual weight, and that was my bad, and I apologize for it. And I did not edit the video, so I didn't get a chance to see it in post. Sometimes my brain goes really fast and will invert something, and it'll stick in my head. So that was my fault, and that was 100% inaccurate. However, it was still the lightest vane you tested over everything. So the where the argument was coming from is the same place. It's just not as drastic.
Well, I think
if that's fair.
The Silent Night was actually the lightest vane we tested at 4.6, but it was a 2-inch versus our 225, which was the other lightest. So the Silent Night was 4.6 grains. Our 2.25 is 4.8 grains, but in size relative. But the Silent Night is also a bigger profile, higher profile too. So it might be a little shorter, but the overall vane itself is lighter than the TAC.
Got it. And it had some varying results that aren't reflective to its weight.
It could be.
But I inverted it in my head. That was totally my fault, and I apologize for that. I also saw the video before it came out, and I would like to apologize first for stating that you lied. I didn't remember saying that. I didn't know that was in there. And if I was in there, I would have asked to have it removed. I don't recall saying that, and I apologize for that because that is not a fair statement. You can't interpret someone's intent for whatever reason. I didn't even realize I said it. So I apologize. I was shocked when I saw it in there. That's my bad. I shouldn't have said that.
Right. Well, I accept the apology. I told Dan this yesterday. I said, look, I've said things that could be taken differently. And I think, we really did do the test to learn, and we didn't know what we were going to find on there, to be honest. And we made it as fair as you could possibly make it on our end. I mean, obviously there's some variances. When we do it outside, I wish we could have done it inside at 100 yards for wind or anything.
Sure.
Didn't affect arrows downrange. We did it as fair as we could possibly make it. Learned. We learned that, even in the spin test, like you guys saw, like, the other vanes started spinning faster than ours that we didn't think was going to happen, stuff like that. But I love doing stuff like that. We all do, because, when we set out to do TAC vanes, which Swacker's been around way longer than TAC, but,
Sure.
And all of the meetings we have, it's not about like, hey, how do we make more money? It's literally about how we make it better. How are we going to make this better? And we wanted to test it against a lot of other people. We didn't get to, with the broadhead testing and stuff, which is not really what we're talking about in this, but there were several we didn't get to test, but we plan on doing that in the future and doing some more videos and so forth. But I appreciate the clarity. I just felt like too, watch the video. I had it sent to me by a lot of people that there was some information that it was almost insinuated that we felt like it was insinuated that we had kind of tampered with or left things out or did things a certain way to make it look like our vanes came out on top. And that was just not the case. I sent Dan a video last night of one of the vanes that we left out, and I don't want to beat them into the dirt. And it was insinuated we left it out of the Whisker biscuit test because maybe it performed better than the rest of them. It was actually the opposite. It had performed worse than most of the tests. We left it out because we didn't want to just keep running it into the dirt and into the ground. Sure. And so,
yeah, no, I saw you put out a short on that yesterday. It popped up in my feed and I saw that. Can I interject to why I looked at it the way I did and why I presented what I presented?
Sure.
So, well, first off, as the representative of the manufacturer or the manufacturer yourself doing the test, you're probably way likelier to come into scrutiny because you're the one presenting the test and then putting competitors' products against yours.
Sure.
A non-biased third party to perform your test might get less scrutiny. But the thing that jumped out at me and made me question it, because one, it was sent to me too. I didn't see it at first. I didn't know it was there. I had a half a dozen people tell me I really need to watch this video at least. And I don't get that a lot. So, I'll get one or two, hey, did you see this? Did you see that? But that one came up a lot. So I felt I'd watch it. I watched it once. And then when Dan got back from hunting, he's like, hey, we should make a video watching this video and responding to what we see. And that's how this came about. But the thing that jumped out at me the most, and it looked like you guys contradicted your own test from day 1 to day 2 with that particular vane. And that particular vane that we're referring to on your 75-yard litmus panel was 4 or 5 inches below the next lowest vane, right? But when you go into the next day in your group testing, it's with all the other ones,
right?
Which doesn't make any sense, right? So it's like, well, if it's not like it just sped up from 75 to 100, we all know that, right? So to me, that would have been okay. So if you saw that one day and then the other the next day, why did you include it or why didn't you go back and check it? Because that doesn't make any sense.
Let me jump in. So
hi, Rick, officially. And go say hi. I'm Josh. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, I'm Rick. So one of the things that we did, right, on day 1, we used a very well-known, very well-respected fall-away rest because a lot of guys shoot fall-aways, right? Okay. On day 2, when we decided to do the group test again, and we had one more day with a very, very expensive camera.
Yeah,
I wanted to put a Whisker biscuit on there, and there's a reason for that. You couldn't have caught me dead with a Whisker biscuit on my bow 15 years ago. Right? That was a mortal sin. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm fortunate to live in Tucson, Arizona, and a lot of my very, very good friends are engineers with PSE, and I'm friends with Pete Shepley, who is a former owner of PSE. They came to me 15 years ago and said, dude, you need to look at this. That's like put me in a tube and send me hunting, right? But I have faith in those guys, and I knew they weren't going to steer me wrong. I'm an engineer. I used to design things to go boom for our war fighters. Mm-hmm. And the number one thing for our war fighters is you have to have a system that is dependable and reliable, right? And so everything, all the equipment that I use, whether it's my boots, whether it's my release, whether it's my quiver, whatever, is all customed to the style of hunting that I do in southern Arizona in the desert. Okay. Spot and stalk, crawling. And that Whisker biscuit brought so many pros to the table versus cons.
Sure.
And so over the years, I've been bashed. I have been bashed like you cannot believe. Why do you have that on your bow? So what I learned was, hey, when my fibers get mangled, that's because my bow isn't tuned, right? When my fibers get mangled, it's because I've got a soft vein that's rippling as it's going through the Whisker biscuit.
Yep.
And it's mangling the fibers on the rest. And so I took the opportunity to say, hey, Randy, Levi, let's put a biscuit on the bow for day 2. Let's get some video because I want to prove or disprove some of my own theories, right? I only have a theory because I don't have high-speed video to back up that data. And that's what we did. So on day 2, right, you're seeing those arrows go downrange with a biscuit. And as a matter of fact, that group, we left all the arrows in that group that day because we didn't want to destroy arrows on day 1. And even Levi's like, man, that's right down the pipe. Man, that's right down the pipe. I can't believe what I'm seeing. That's right down the pipe. And the group on day 2 with a Whisker biscuit, no kidding, was just as tight as that $300 fall away rest.
That's a
Right?
fact.
Now, so
Dang.
I didn't
So
want
I
to
even-
admit. I didn't want to
I
admit.
joked with Levi. I go, hey, you gonna have that arrow rest on your bow in the next world?
Not going to happen. However, I would have never expected, and I think so. When we had the fall away, there was no interference on the veins. We were testing the drop. When we were testing the grouping was with the Whisker biscuit, so there was way more contact and interference and drag. So I think that's where it affected the fall when there were no other variables with the drop away. And so we probably should have shown that. We didn't even mention that there was a change in rest when we did the drop test, and we changed the rest to do the grouping test. And so I think that the amount of drag certain veins were having in that Whisker biscuit was affecting impact as far as with other veins. They still individually shot as tight a group, but a lot of them were more condensed, I think, because of possibly that drag on the Whisker biscuit. But I would love to test that later and find out if in fact that would have been what caused that. But that's where the difference in the group from one day to the drop test the other day, I think, is coming from.
And I might have even said in the video, Levi, I don't remember, I'm getting old, my memory's going, but I think I even said in the video, when we were looking at the difference between the 2 3/4 3-fletched and the 2 2/5 4-fletched, I even mentioned, everybody's setup is different. Everybody's got a different drum, different arrows. Some people have really good form. Some people have just absolutely horrendous form, right? Some people are shooting big fixed blades. Some people are shooting mechanical. So to say that there's one setup that meets everybody's need is not correct, right? If I was going to shoot a big old fixed blade broadhead, I'd probably go with the 3-fletched, the longer vein, right? Out west, I'm trying to shoot long range like you are. I don't want the wind drift, so I select my stuff to really reduce my wind drift. So, I think I made the comment in that video that here's the data, right? Here's the spin rates of the different veins. You really need to make a decision based on what we're seeing here and what's the right mix for your setup, right? I don't think we ever said don't shoot this vein or don't shoot that vein.
Right.
We purely were just going, here's the data.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and honestly, guys, I would love, we want to do more testing. I would love for you both to be involved in it too, because that way everybody would know it's fair. Because it is, like you said, as a manufacturer, and even though to be perfectly honest, I've never received one dime from TAC Vanes other than what I won in competition. I just have been involved in developing it and trying to make the best vane, because I just felt like vanes hadn't really changed in 20 years, since I've been a kid, pretty much. That was really the goal of the whole thing, is for us to see where we stood against the rest of the products, that are out there, find out which one actually performs the best of certain scenarios. Because I know Dan's a fan of fixed blades, and I didn't watch the Broadhead video yet, but and I'm a fan of mechanicals. I think a lot of that has to do with experience that we've had with certain things, and I'm open to all of it. I want to test everything, and so, because we want to be fair. I'm
having my own personal channel is mostly testing product and what have you, and because of how many I've done, I've gotten a bunch of feedback over that time of, well, did you check this? Did you weigh this? Did you measure this? Did you measure that? Because that's typically the criticalness of what you'll get. And if you're affiliated with the product that you're actually testing, it's going to be super critical. So I think that would be really beneficial on your part to have us there, assuming that that works. And I'm more than willing to fit it in my schedule and travel, because that would be fun. I'd like to do it as well. I do have one question of clarity from the video. Did you actually like put wraps on the arrows to make them all weigh the same, or is the weight of the vanes a manipulated difference in that test?
The variance from arrow to arrow was what you would expect in any dozen arrows that you built exactly the same. Like, I have a couple weights here. So like our 275 3-fletch, the total arrow weight was 471.1. Mm-hmm. With the Blazers, it was 470.8. With the Super Sabers, it was 472.8. So you're talking about a grain to 2 grains variance in every, from top to bottom. And we built tons of arrows just to get them to weigh the same. And we took the closest ones out of those arrows.
Oh, okay.
And to test. Because there's if I built a 2 dozen arrows, there's going to be 5 to 6 grain variance from the lightest to the heaviest if I put the exact right. Sure. So we just took the closest ones we could get out of that, and it became just a couple grains, which really you're not going to see at 100 yards out of a hooter shooter very much with field points. So if any, honestly, because I shoot like my best arrows are 2 to 2.5 grains apart. You know, that I feel like that's acceptable in my world. Maybe you have a different opinion on that, but it's impossible to get every vane to weigh 471.25 or every arrow, right? So
right.
But we just felt like we got them well within the window where you wouldn't see a difference on impact if they were all built with the exact same vane configuration.
Yeah, that's one thing I was like, man, you guys, this is quarterback. You guys should have showed that.
Yeah.
One question for you, Levi, and maybe I'm ignorant. I never saw in the video you guys explaining what a LRP is, and I still don't know. I just know is it a 4 mil? Is it a 5 mil? Is it a gold tip pierce? What's the components? Like, could you just tell me real quick, what is your LRP?
Sure. LRP stands for long range precision, and really it's a service more than it is a product.
Okay.
So it's a 4 mil arrow, 166, the Pierce Platinum from Gold Tip. But more than anything, it's a component system that we built for that, right? So we built, that Keith and Rick and all of us with Swacker had the Broadhead, then we started TAC Vane, so we had the vane, and we're like, why don't we just, I loved micro diameter arrows for a lot of reasons. Wind, penetration, I felt like it shot great in tournaments. But then as soon as I would start throwing all these components with half certs and inserts and collars and broadheads that are one size fits all, and you try to match all that up, it's a nightmare, dude. And I spent so many hours with a ram spine tester and other stuff trying to get them. I was literally bending them straight. I mean, it's a nightmare. So we were like, there's got to be a better way. So we went in meetings, like, how do we build a component system for a broadhead that's different, that's tough? And with aluminum broadheads, which is what almost all mechanicals are, the weak point is where they meet the carbon, because you got aluminum and you got the collar, but where they meet is the weak point. It's where they fail, it's where they bend, it's where they break. So the LRP, we started a system and patented a system that is a steel insert that goes inside the broadhead. So the broadhead actually has the female threads. So the insert has the male threads, and the steel goes up inside the aluminum broadhead. So there's not that weak point anymore in the broadhead. And so I think Aaron Snyder just sent me a video, and I won't ruin his video, but he was testing strength of those broadheads versus the other mechanicals. And it was like, it took 44 pounds of side pressure to break an LRP. And the other one I won't name, I'll let him do the video, took a very well-known one, took 8 pounds. So like we just really made the toughest. And so it's not a one-size-fits-all broadhead, so you can't screw it on a standard insert, right? It's very sleek. Everything fits together. The threads so one of the things I've always done with my broadheads, and you guys might do this, is I orient the blades exactly the same from arrow to arrow. I don't have one blade turn like this, on the next arrow turn like this. So I've been frustrated in the past, even with our Swackers, because when you screw them on and I shoot them through a deer, I get my arrow and I want to put a new broadhead on. I screwed another broadhead on, it's turned different because the threads are different and from broadhead to broadhead. So with the LRPs, we oriented, which took a lot of work, every thread. So our machine orients threads exactly the same. So when you line the first broadhead up and glue it in, every LRP head you put on that from then on is oriented exactly the same. So it allows you to have that ability to shoot it through an animal, put a new broadhead on, and it's turned exactly the same. So we changed that. We made a practice point that is the same length, the same weight, like a field point, because when you go to tune, that's another issue. If you tune with a field point this long and then screw a broad this long, right, it changes the dynamic spine of that arrow and how it reacts. We wanted to build a field point, and I had never, every broadhead's like field point accuracy, but it was not true because our field points that are the same length and weight. It's the first time at 120 yards I can hit with my broadheads ever, and I can tune with it and know that it tunes exactly like my broadhead because the weight's distributed the same. So we did a lot of changes to the broadhead end of the arrow, spine align all the arrows. So it's a custom arrow deal, like where we build it out. But our component system we have to fit pretty much every 1/66 diameter, every 4 mil that you could think of. So people can buy the system separately and put it on their own arrows. They don't have to shoot a gold tip or whatever. And but yeah, and then we have the TAC vanes on the back. So we did all a 2.5 left helical on every arrow, all flexed on the same jig the same day. And I'm not sure.
Thought it was 2 degree.
Okay, hitting the high points. That's what is different about the LRP system, compared to just any other standard system. And so we can build them. If you put in your specs, we'll build them complete, come to you ready to hunt. Or you can literally buy just the broadhead system and put it on your arrow, whatever you want to do.
That's a great way to address the 1/66 issue, because it is a terrible issue. Doesn't matter what brand.
Right.
Like titanium help, a wise way to address that problem that anybody that's really messing with arrows knows it's a very big problem, which is why I typically recommend 204s over 1/66s, because you don't have nearly the problem with that part. It's a smaller you get without running into as big of a problem.
100%. I mean, it has been a pain in my butt for years. Like, it wasn't worth it to deal with it. It's like, I'm not going to, but if we could build it, and you can't get away from running collars. So we tried that too. And it's like, breaks out the side of the arrow. So we feel like we solved some issues. Is it perfect? I don't know. I'd really like to keep improving it, and learning and seeing what we can do. Some things in your head work, but then you try to machine them. Like Rick, that's Rick's expertise. The machine. I have ideas, and he's like, "That don't work, bud." I'm like, "Oh well, all right." So it's I don't know. I'm an idea guy and a test guy, and then I have guys around me like Rick that are way smarter than me to tell me if he thinks it can work or not. So
there's not way smarter. Maybe a little more experience over the years.
Well, hey, dude, you guys are awesome for coming on today, giving us an opportunity to kind of explain ourselves. You guys explain yourselves, and then pretty much just bank on it. When you guys are ready to say the word go, we're hopping on airplanes. We'll go wherever, and we'll help offer our ideas so that we can make more testing and we all can learn. I think that's all of our goal, is to just evolve and shoot the best stuff we can. I know I don't have any contracts with arrow companies or vanes or components or broadheads on purpose. I want to be able to be kind of a free agent. I wanted to segue before your kids get in the car, Levi. You shot a freaking stud bull in Montana with, I'm assuming, the LRP and the Schwacker. Tell me a little bit about, did you get a pass through? How far was the shot? I want to get into Rick's design, because if you watch our broadhead video, I'm like, is that the best mechanical ever designed? And then I bought Schwackers, like from Cabela's full retail. I'm going to try them out on some deer. You know what I mean? So tell me about that elk you killed with it.
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, Levi. You guys made a comment, you just get a pinhole with a Schwacker, and that's not true. You get a minimum 1 1/8 to 1 1/4 inch hole in the hide if the broadhead hits the animal perfectly perpendicular. The way the ferrule starts pushing the hide in, and then the wings catch the hide, that's the minimum size hole you're going to get, which is the same as an iron will, a Zwicky, a bear. So you're going to get the same entrance hole that you get with a lot of these fixed blade broadheads. A minimum. If you hit at a quartering shot and the blades are horizontal, depending on the severity of the angle, and I mean, you can take a Schwacker next time, hold it up to your hand with the wings closed or a piece of paper, push it into the cardboard, see where the first wing hits, push it the rest of the way through, see where the second wing hits. Sometimes your entrance holes can be 2 to 3 inches wide just from the wing blades. So I just wanted to bring that up. You mentioned you just get a pinhole. That's not true. You get a minimum of 1.125 to 1.25 inch hole.
So can I ask a question about that, Rick, since I haven't tested them?
Yeah, sure.
So you're saying the wing blades are sharp?
Yes, they are.
Oh.
Well, they're sharp. They're not razor sharp, right? They're sharp enough to cut the hide and do what they need to do to get in. But you don't want a flat edge like you see on some of these others, because then you have a tremendous load on that wing, and you could start breaking things.
Sure, I can see and understand that. Now, I have had, this is from feedback from other people, especially since this video came out. I've had multiple people tell me that's what they experienced when they shot an elk, is that the entry hole was like the size of the arrow. It didn't actually cut. And that may be because of the excessively thick nature of elk hide over deers and whatnot, but that was feedback that was given to me.
Yeah, I can tell you, we killed our 71st elk 3 weeks ago with swackers, just me and my crew.
Sure. Yeah, I don't doubt that it'll kill.
Ever. All these years, shot over 300 animals with that swacker, had a pinhole, period, ever.
Yeah.
Okay.
Same. It's impossible to have a pinhole. Those blades cut. I mean,
okay.
Just to be perfectly honest, it's not as big as obviously like a slap cut or a rage hypodermic on the entry. But in all the tests we found, it was, my concern has always been breaking blades before I even get to the good stuff. And so, sure, there's pros and cons to anything. You're gonna, once you give up or to do something better, you got to give up one thing almost, and it's like the experience I had with my elk this year was 55 yards, perfectly broadside, and I never found my arrow. It blew through it and I couldn't find it. And I'll send you the video clip. The film is dropping November 15th on that hunt. You can see in the film, it just blows through it like butter. But it was, and I didn't find it because it went in a sage bush. We were looking everywhere but in the sage bush, and we saw it on the video afterwards that's where it actually went. But definitely blew through it. And on elk, a lot of times I've got passers with a swacker shooting just the standard arrows and stuff, but not like blow through it and stick in the ground type stuff you see on deer and stuff like that. I mean, they're thick, tough animals. And I've killed moose, buffalo, muskox, everything with the swacker. But I have a 31-inch draw, 75 to 80 pounds. I'm pushing a lot of energy. But my wife is not. And she also shoots a 2-inch swacker. She's killed elk with me. She's shot the big whitetail and gets passers. Obviously, the shoulder is your enemy with any broadhead, but especially a mechanical. And I tell everybody, if you hit that knuckle in the shoulder on an elk, probably ain't getting through it. Some rifles don't break through that shoulder. It's like that thing is tough. So and a lot of the complaints we get, I never found it. And I'm like, okay, where'd you hit it? They're like, well, in the shoulder. I'm like, okay, that's the one, evil that you can't do. However, on my Roosevelt this year, and I don't know if you guys have hunted Roosevelt, but they are giant elk, body.
Very large body.
So I've shot, and we're going to launch that video too. I was with the Born and Raised guys out there, and I hit that elk. I've lost one elk in my lifetime. I think I've killed 14 bulls with my bow. One elk I lost in Colorado, I hit in the shoulder years ago, shooting a swacker. But it was the one year I tested the hidden insert because I hated the component system so much. And I was shooting micros, and we have a head that has deep 6 inserts. And so I wanted to test it with the hidden insert technology. And I shot this elk square in the shoulder, and it broke out the side of my arrow instantly. The arrow just boom, almost looked like it bounced off. And I'm like, so that was the last time I shot that. But it was my fault to hit it in the shoulder. Long story short, that's the only elk I ever lost. But this bull I shot in Oregon, I hit in the exact same place. And I instantly, that feeling as a bow hunter, when your arrow hits, you want to throw up in your mouth, and you're like, I'll never find that animal, right? Like my pin's on it. It's not very close. And at the last second, my pin, the last place I see my pin is the shoulder when it fires. And the arrow's in the air, and I'm thinking, oh no, not good. And it's just whop right in the shoulder, and I'm like, oh, not gonna. I'm already loading another arrow. Just please stop and give me another shot. And I can hear my brother behind me. He's filming, and I'm not even looking because I'm like, he ain't gonna die. like that bull's just shoulder shot. And I'm loading the arrow and he goes, he's down. And I looked up and he's flopping right there in the meadow. And I'm like, no way, you know. And it was the first time I'd ever punched through the shoulder. Like, it wasn't pretty, right? Like I thought it's went in this far, like your normal shoulder shot, and that was it. But it actually punched through and hit the offside shoulder. Didn't hit the knuckle, but it went through the blade, you know. And I was just, that was with the LRP. And in the past, I don't know that I'd ever got that animal, even with a standard, you know, size arrow and whatnot. But maybe so. It's just my opinion of what I'd seen in the past. But I was sick when the arrow hit and it got through and killed the bull. So, I mean, I've had really good experiences. I know opinions are different no matter who you ask. And you got to shoot what you're confident in. And that's what I tell people. Like, if you are sitting in a tree and you're shooting a mechanical and you're going, I really don't feel good about my setup. I'm afraid I'm not going to get penetration and all these negative things. Like, it's not good. Like, you're probably not going to make a great shot. You're going to be doubting your system. Like, you got to shoot what you have confidence in. And so where I try to tell people is, look, if you are skeptical of our system or whatever, like, just shoot some does with it. Like, don't go out on a hunt of a lifetime, right, and be doubting your equipment the entire time. Like, take the time to really test it, because I do believe in it. And I think there's situations where maybe your draw length's not very long, you don't shoot a lot of poundage, where mechanicals maybe aren't the right call on an elk or whatever it is, right? So yeah, that's kind of where I stand on it. I'm not the guy that's like, well, you never can have any success if you don't shoot what I shoot. You know, I'm not that guy. I do really believe in it, but
Levi, to your point, I mean, I've said for years, you can shoot all the steel drums, you can shoot all the plywood, you can shoot all the ballistic gelatin, you can shoot ribs, you can do this. The animal is so inconsistent from one animal to the next, right? And every hit is different. So when I get guys that are skeptical, I tell them to carcass shoot. You know, take your swacker, go kill your elk, go kill your deer, whatever you're going to hunt with, get it on the ground, and while it's still fresh and still warm, prop it up and shoot it full of holes with whatever broadhead you want to test. That's what I did. I mean, that 380 bull that my wife killed a few years ago with a swacker, right? We propped it up, and I'm testing broadheads on this elk after we did all the hero pictures, right?
Sure.
Because what better test do I have, right? I shot that thing in the ribs, I shot it in the shoulder, I shot it in the spine, I shot it in the head. I want to see what the broadhead is going to do, right? Right? Because these are all the things that happen to these guys, right? That's real world testing right there, right? You cannot replace that. And unless you can go buy an elk from Farmer Joe down the road and shoot him in the head with a 22 or something, and then broadhead test, right? That's the real test. So that's what I tell guys.
that's funny.
If you don't have any,
I haven't done that since I was a kid. That's how my dad let me go hunting with bow hunting as a kid. He killed a deer, and once it got stiff, he propped it up, and he said if I could get through both sides of the rib cage, he'd let me go hunt. And I did, and I was like, thank God. That's the only time I've ever done that.
but I mean, that's how I tell people. You hunt with what you have confidence in.
Yeah.
Because I mean, when a guy shoots an elk with a fixed blade broadhead and he doesn't recover it, 9 times out of 10, he's going to say, I made a bad hit. He's not going to blame a slick trick. He's not going to blame the iron wheel. I made a bad hit because that elk should be dead. When a guy shoots one with a mechanical head and doesn't recover the animal, there's a tendency to always blame the broadhead and not question, well, maybe I didn't hit it exactly like I thought, or maybe it was quartered a little more than what I saw and I only got one long, right? Guys are too quick to blame equipment. So unless you have the proof in your hands of it failed, or you have the animal right there on the ground, you know, you just don't know. So I tell people, shoot it with what you have confidence, and then play with what you want to test.
No, I get you. And I will attest to, and I don't know if you watched the video or not. I know Levi didn't, the broadhead part. I'm very intrigued at anybody with a 2-inch cut in any test, most likely because of how it opens and bypasses some of the things that absorb energy. I think it's really smart. And I didn't know how that broadhead functioned until you came out with that video. I didn't. So it was.
I'm like any other guys, right? Dude, I want to shoot an animal and I want to blow through it. You know, the macho side of me wants to blow a big old hole through the backside. But the engineer side of me, after 71 elk on the ground, you know, me and my buddies are engineers, and we're like, all right, where was he standing? Where did you hit him? Where did the blood start? And one of the things, you know, high hits don't bleed. You got to hit low. You know, some of the better blood trails we had, to be honest with you, are where the arrows stayed in the animal and it kept the hide and the body cavity hole lined up. If you shoot an elk when his leg's forward and the arrow blows through, the only time the blood can come out of the hole in the hide is every time the hole in the hide passes over the hole in the chest cavity, right? How many times have you skinned an animal that's a huge blood clot, hematoma, under the hide because the blood got trapped between the hide and the ribs, right?
Sure. No, that's
And
valid.
every hit is different, right? You're scratching his, man, my brother heart shot this bull and there's no blood on the ground. He went 30 yards, right? But the holes didn't line up. When you walk up to the animal, the holes didn't line up. The blood, you got a little bit of blood from the wound in the skin, but it wasn't coming out from the chest cavity because the hole didn't line up.
I never
And,
thought about that.
you know, I've seen so many of these, you're scratching your head, going, wow, that's crazy. You know, there's blood everywhere, but the arrow, I didn't get an exit hole. There's blood everywhere. Well, the arrow's in. So the further back I get in the ribs, but in staying away from the shoulder, I have better blood trails.
Yeah, so Rick, when I'm on YouTube, I'm not a professional archer, not a subject matter expert, unless we're talking about strength and conditioning or elk hunting with a bow. Other than that, I don't know shit. Honestly, I'm like kind of the student and I lean on Josh. I've always been kind of not judgy, but like mechanicals are for lazy people who can't tune a bow. When you're elk hunting, that's kind of been my vibe, and I'm just being honest. And then I watch your guys' damn video, and I'm like, Josh, I never knew how a schwacker worked. And you can watch our video, you can see it on my face. I'm like, is that the best mechanical ever invented? So like, I'm still super intrigued because your test did show that sucker stays and then bam, gets into the good stuff. And I mean, I'm really, truly impressed. I want you guys, when we go down and test with you, we have to include the sever, and I'm only going off the comments on your video. People seem to have an infatuation with those, and they really want to see those severs head to head.
Yeah, I want to see it too, because honestly, I feel like the sever will perform pretty well, just off of what I think. Now, we may find something different. I also want to test the beast.
Yes.
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 I want to test the beast.
Yes.
Like, I'm like, all
That's
right.
the beast.
One of my best friends is the engineer on that, David Hauser.
I get a bull tag like I got this last year. If there was any chance in hell that I was going to risk not killing a big bull because of my broadhead, it wouldn't be on my arrow. I don't get elk tags in Arizona very often anymore. And, you know, I went and bought a whole second backup, brand new bow, brand new garment, everything, so that when I went on my hunt, I was ready to go. And they all had swackers. And it's not because I'm getting paid. It's not because of anything else. I'm a nobody. Levi's, you know, the guy with all the fame. I'm quietly in the background doing my thing. I am not going to risk a coveted elk tag if I didn't have 100% confidence that when I shoot that thing, I'm going to kill it.
Amen. Guys, we probably need to let you go. Thanks for making the video. Just from a production question, like, who wants to answer this question? How many days did you guys film? How many people were involved running Phantom cameras, lighting, and who the hell had to edit that bad boy? And I mean, people just don't get how hard it is to make a video like that.
I had the easy job. We were there, what, 3 days? Two to 2.5 days right before the classic.
Two solid days of filming just nonstop because we were paying a ton of money for that camera. So we had everything ready to go so that we made use of the cameraman.
Yeah, it was an expensive thing, but to see stuff the way you want to see it in high speed like that, it's the only way, you know. It's like we have all these ideas and have no idea if they're true or not until you can watch it in that kind of high speed. And so yeah, a lot of cool people down there that I mean, there's probably 20 people on set at different times, you know, just running different things and screens. And none of us knew how to run that Phantom camera anyway, so we had to hire somebody to do that. And so yeah, it was a really cool deal, but I'm excited to do more. And we have the ability to shoot really long range down there indoor, and I think the next one I would like to test indoor. The problem with the Phantom is getting enough lighting indoors to run those high speeds. So that's why we were outside on a sunny day, because it drains light when you shoot at those high speeds. So but yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So when we all slow down from hunting, let's make a day and go down in a couple of days and shoot some really educational and learn. educational content. I'm live for stuff like that. So
That sounds awesome.
Agreed. Well, I think this video is 10 times better than the one you and I made, Josh, because it's got the real dudes here. Guys, thanks for your passion for archery. Thanks for your grace on knowing that we had good intentions. And thanks for accelerating everybody's ability in archery. That's something I can get behind.
Well, thank you guys for giving us a chance to come on here and explain some things and have a good conversation about arrows, and hopefully we can do some really cool stuff going forward.
Sounds great.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, you guys enjoy the rest of your day. Levi's got a birthday party to get ready for a 6-year-old boy. So have fun with that, man.
All right, guys. See ya.
Take it easy.